think about the power of actions for a moment. What you do, how you show up in the world every single day will always outweigh the words you speak. People can talk endlessly about their plans, their ideas, and their dreams, but the truth is, words alone will never carry the same weight as consistent action. We all know someone who has shared their aspirations and goals so many times that it feels like their words are repeating on a loop. The promise to start that business, to lose weight, to write a book, or to travel the world. The conversations may be exciting, filled with passion and energy. But here's the thing, talk doesn't lead to progress. Think about a friend or colleague who is always discussing their plans, but when you check in with them later, nothing has changed. They might tell you all the things they'll accomplish, but months go by and their actions are nowhere to be seen. Words are easy to say, but action is what separates those who dream from those who succeed. We've all heard the phrase, talk is cheap, and it's true. It's easy to say we're going to do something, but the real measure of a person is not in what they say, but in what they do. The reality is, no one remembers the talkers, they remember the doers. The ones who stay quiet, who keep their heads down, who let their results do the talking. Those are the people who create real, lasting impact. Let's talk about a practical example to make this clearer. Think about a person who tells everyone they're going to start a business. They explain in great detail what their business model will look like, how they've got it all figured out, and how they'll change the world with their product or service. You might be inspired by their enthusiasm. You may even believe they're serious, but the truth is, nothing will happen until they take action. On the flip side, consider someone who doesn't say much about their business at all. Instead, they wake up every day, put in the work, and quietly build. You won't hear them boast or brag. But then, one day, out of nowhere, you see it. The business is up and running. They're making progress. They're succeeding. You didn't hear about their plans or listen to their stories for months, but their actions told a completely different story. Their results were undeniable, and that's the difference between the person who talks and the person who works. When the actions come first, the success follows. The loudest noise is often made by the quietest people who are actually doing the work. Words are often driven by the need for validation, attention, or approval. It's natural to want to share your dreams and ambitions with others. But when you speak about something before you've truly begun to work on it, you set yourself up for unnecessary pressure and expectations. The more you tell people about what you plan to do, the more you expose yourself to the risk of being judged before you've even had a chance to perform. Think about it. When you speak to someone about your dream of starting a business, there's a chance they might question you. Is it a good idea? Do you have the right skills? Are you sure you can make it work? This doubt, however well-intentioned, can slow you down and create uncertainty. You may begin to second-guess yourself because you're now carrying the weight of their doubts on your shoulders. Even the most well-meaning people can unintentionally add layers of stress to your journey just by asking questions or offering unsolicited advice. But here's what happens when you focus on doing rather than talking. You shield yourself from those outside opinions and distractions. When you're too busy putting in the work, you don't have time to worry about what others think or say. You're too focused on results. And when those results show up, you won't need to explain anything. Your work will speak for itself. Think about the pressure that comes with over-explaining yourself. When you constantly talk about your plans, you create an invisible contract with others that holds you accountable to something before you've actually done the work. This can be motivating at first, but it can also become overwhelming if things don't move as quickly as you expected. If you've shared your big plans with everyone and then you don't deliver, you risk disappointing people. But if you stay silent, you're free to evolve, make mistakes, and correct your course without fear of judgment. You've preserved your freedom to fail and grow without the weight of others' expectations. Consider how often people assume things about others based on what they've shared. Someone says they're going to lose weight or start running, and before they've even laced up their shoes, people are already picturing them as the next fitness guru. What happens when that person doesn't immediately see results? The expectations set in the mind of others may become a burden. The pressure can feel unbearable. But the person who keeps their plans to themselves can stay focused on their process. They can take small steps, adjust as needed, and celebrate their wins privately without feeling like they need to prove anything to anyone. Their success will be theirs alone, and it will be built brick by brick. People can only evaluate you based on the results they see. And while the journey to success is often long and hard, the end result is undeniable. You don't need to tell the world what you're going to do. Just go out and do it. Let the world see your progress. And in time, they'll recognize you for your effort, your resilience, and your ability to get the job done. The truth is, the fewer words you use, the more powerful your actions become. When you let your actions take center stage, you can build momentum, earn respect, and achieve results that speak for themselves. This is where true success is born, from the courage to act and the humility to let the outcome be the proof of your efforts. People will judge you based on your words, not your results. When you speak, people listen, but what they often listen to is not the depth of your intention, but the surface-level story you present. It's easy for others to make assumptions about you based on the words you say, and those assumptions can shape their perceptions of your abilities, your worth, and your potential. The reality is, people don't judge you based on what you've done. They judge you based on what you say you're going to do. This is an unfortunate truth, but one that we must all accept. When you announce your plans, your dreams, or your goals, you create a story in the minds of others. They will start building expectations based on your words, but those words can be misleading. Words are abstract. They don't convey the full story of what it takes to actually follow through with something. And when you fail to live up to what you've said, those same people who had high hopes for you may be the first to criticize or question your abilities. Take, for example, an entrepreneur who shares their business ideas with everyone in their circle. The minute they announce their vision, people begin to form an opinion. They might say, "That sounds amazing," or "You're going to change the world with this?" These responses may seem encouraging, but they also come with subtle expectations. The entrepreneur hasn't done anything yet except talk about their plans, but already people are placing value on the idea they've heard. Those expectations, when not met, can lead to disappointment. Why is this the case? Because people's judgments are often formed by the image you create with your words. And as powerful as words are, they don't always reflect the reality of the journey ahead. The effort, the struggle, the late nights, the setbacks, none of that is visible when you're just speaking about your dreams. The truth is, words are easy. It's the work that's hard. But people don't see the work, they only see what you say. When you talk about your future plans, you open yourself up to the possibility of being judged long before you've had the chance to deliver. When you're judged based on your words, you're not being judged for the effort, the time, or the sacrifice you put into your pursuit. You're judged based on the excitement of your story, the image you've painted, and the way you've presented yourself. So when you don't meet expectations, that image starts to fade, and with it, people's respect and trust in you. In contrast, consider someone who keeps their goals and plans close to the chest. They don't announce what they're about to do. They don't seek approval from others. Instead, they show up day after day, working tirelessly to turn their ideas into reality. People don't know what they're up to, so they don't place any judgment on them. There are no expectations to meet and no pressure to deliver based on what they've promised. When this person finally reveals their success, when they've accomplished what they set out to do, it's met with awe and respect. There's no disappointment because no one has already formed an opinion of what they should have accomplished. The world can only see what they've done and not what they said they were going to do. By withholding your words, you protect yourself from unnecessary judgment. You allow yourself the space to make mistakes, to change directions, and to adjust your approach without the looming fear of public opinion. This freedom gives you room to grow. It allows you to experiment, to fail without shame, and to rise again, this time with more knowledge, more experience, and more strength. But the truth is, it's not just about avoiding judgment. It's about taking control of the narrative. When you don't talk about what you plan to do, you take back the power. You are no longer a person with ideas to be analyzed or critiqued. You become someone whose actions speak louder than any word you could say. Consider the story of J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series. Before the world knew her name, she wasn't going around announcing her dreams of becoming a successful author. She didn't spend years telling everyone about her plans. She simply sat down, wrote, and worked through rejection after rejection. It wasn't until she had completed the work that the world learned her story. Her success was built on quiet, consistent effort. No grand declarations, no expectations created for others to place upon her. You can see the same story in the lives of athletes, musicians, and entrepreneurs who let the results do the talking. They don't waste time explaining what they're going to do next or trying to convince others of their potential. Instead, they let their work speak for them, and when success comes, it's undeniable. That's the power of avoiding the trap of talking too much. You control how the world perceives you, not by telling them what you plan to do, but by showing them what you've done. And there's no better way to earn respect than through results, not promises. People can judge you all they want based on the words you say, but they can never take away what you've accomplished, what you've done, what you've achieved, what you've built will always carry more weight than anything you've said. Keep your intentions to yourself, protect your energy, and let the world judge you by your results. Silence creates space for opportunity. In life, we often hear about the importance of speaking up, of sharing your thoughts, ideas, and plans with the world. But there's a power that comes from remaining silent, from allowing your actions to be the only voice that speaks. Silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's a space for growth, for learning, for innovation. It's a powerful tool that can open doors to opportunities you didn't even know existed. When you keep your plans to yourself, you create a rare opportunity to explore your ideas without external influence. You leave room for your mind to think freely, to be creative, and to make mistakes without fear of judgment. This is the space where true innovation happens. It's in the quiet moments when the world isn't watching that the most profound breakthroughs occur. Think about it. How often do we talk ourselves out of an idea because of others' opinions? When we share our plans with the world too soon, we expose ourselves to 1,000 voices, some supportive, some skeptical, and some outright dismissive. This creates noise. It clouds our judgment and distracts us from the work at hand. But when we keep things quiet, we're able to think clearly, to make decisions based on our own understanding, not someone else's point of view. Take the example of a musician who is just beginning to compose a new album. If they tell everyone about it before they've created anything, they open themselves up to a lot of potential distractions. Some might ask them, "When's the album coming out?" Others might offer unsolicited advice or opinions on their sound, the genre they should explore, or the artist they should collaborate with. This noise can throw them off track. But if the musician keeps the project under wraps, working quietly behind the scenes, they are free from distraction. They are creating from a place of purity, not trying to meet anyone's expectations. There's a unique clarity that comes when you work in silence. Without the pressure of trying to impress or validate yourself to others, you can focus purely on your craft. You're not trying to live up to anyone's idea of what your success should look like. You're creating your own version of success. You're not bound by external influences or restricted by others' thoughts. This is where the magic happens, the place where innovation is born, and the space where ideas mature. We often see people who share their goals prematurely, seeking validation or praise from others. This can feel good in the moment, but it comes at a cost. When you share something before you've even had the chance to work on it, you risk losing some of the emotional energy you need to fuel your progress. You might feel compelled to explain yourself repeatedly or justify your decisions, which can drain your focus. You might even start second-guessing your own ideas because now they've been exposed to the opinions and judgments of others. Instead of sharing everything right away, let your actions build the story. Let people see your progress through what you create, not through what you say. The fewer people know about your plans, the fewer people have an opportunity to throw doubt into the process. You are free to experiment, to pivot, and to learn without being under the microscope. This freedom is essential for personal and professional growth. When you work in silence, you don't just protect your focus, you also protect your energy. Every time you talk about what you're going to do, you give away a bit of your energy. Talking about your ideas can be exhausting because it requires mental effort to explain, to persuade, and to defend your choices. But when you keep your goals to yourself, you conserve that energy for the work that truly matters. You don't need to convince anyone of your vision. You let your results do that for you. In addition to protecting your energy, working in silence gives you the ability to adjust without the pressure of public opinion. It's in the private, quiet moments that you can figure out what works, what doesn't, and where you need to improve. There's no shame in failure when no one is watching. There's only growth. You're allowed to stumble and get back up without having to explain yourself to anyone. Failure becomes a learning experience, not a public embarrassment. A great example of this can be seen in the way successful tech companies often operate. Before launching a product, many tech companies work in stealth mode, meaning they develop the product in private, away from public scrutiny. They don't tell the world what they're doing until they've perfected the product, until it's ready to make a real impact. By the time they unveil their innovation, it's already been tested, refined, and improved. There's no need to explain or apologize for anything. The product speaks for itself. This strategy of silence is especially powerful in industries where there's fierce competition and a lot of noise. Silence allows you to move ahead while others are still talking about what they're going to do. By the time they're ready to act, you've already taken action, and your work has already established your place in the market. In your own life, consider how much space you have for creativity, for action, when you're not constantly talking about what you're going to do. Think about the pressure that builds when you tell everyone your plans. Now, think about the freedom that comes with just doing the work and letting your results tell the story. You'll be amazed at how much clearer and more focused you become when you stop filling your space with unnecessary chatter. Silence, in this context, is not about avoiding communication or being secretive for the sake of secrecy. It's about protecting your creative energy and your mental space. It's about letting your actions speak louder than your words, allowing the world to see your progress without being distracted by expectations, doubts, or opinions. And as you continue to work in silence, something remarkable happens. You begin to trust the process more deeply. You gain confidence in your ability to create, innovate, and build something of value without needing constant validation. This self-trust becomes a powerful driving force in your life. And the more you work quietly, the more capable you feel in achieving your dreams. Expectations can hold you back. Expectations are powerful forces. They come from others and sometimes even from within ourselves. But here's the harsh truth. Expectations often become the chains that hold us back from truly achieving what we want. When you tell the world what you plan to do, you set expectations, both for yourself and for others. These expectations can create a pressure so intense that it stops you from taking action, making decisions, or even starting at all. Consider the burden of expectation that weighs on athletes, musicians, or anyone who has ever been in the public eye. These people are expected to succeed, to win, to perform at a certain level. But here's what often gets overlooked. The pressure of those expectations can cripple their ability to perform at their best. The world expects perfection, and the moment they fall short, the criticism, the doubts, and the judgments flood in. Now think about your own life. How many times have you kept yourself from taking a step forward because of the expectations you felt from others? Maybe you wanted to start a new project, pursue a new career, or try something different. But because you've shared your dreams and plans with friends, family, or colleagues, you felt as though you had to live up to their idea of success. Their expectations became a heavy weight that slowed you down, or worse, made you second-guess your abilities. Here's an example that's all too familiar. A young entrepreneur who excitedly shares their plans to start a new business. They tell everyone about their brilliant ideas, their grand vision, and the impact they plan to make. But once the business is in motion, something unexpected happens. The pressure to meet those grand expectations makes it difficult to focus on the task at hand. They start comparing themselves to other successful entrepreneurs, thinking they should be further along by now or that they need to achieve certain milestones faster. This sense of urgency to live up to the expectations of others often clouds their judgment, and instead of moving forward, they become paralyzed by the fear of failing. What's worse is that these external expectations can start to shape how you view yourself. The more you talk about your dreams, the more others start to see you as a certain kind of person, a successful entrepreneur, a talented writer, a promising musician. As soon as you don't meet those expectations, you may feel like you're failing. Even though the journey is still ongoing, this self-imposed pressure can erode your confidence and make you hesitant to keep going. Now think about how different things would be if you kept your goals to yourself and worked quietly toward them. Without the pressure of external expectations, you give yourself the freedom to move at your own pace, make mistakes, and grow organically. The beauty of working in silence is that it allows you to take risks without fear of judgment. You can change course, try new things, and explore your ideas without having to explain yourself to anyone. In fact, one of the greatest advantages of not sharing your plans with others is that you give yourself the room to fail without shame. Failure is part of the process. It's a necessary stepping stone toward success. But when you're constantly aware of others' expectations, failure becomes something you fear. It becomes something you must avoid at all costs, which can make you paralyzed by inaction. You may hesitate to take the next step because you're worried about disappointing others. Think about a time in your life when you set expectations for yourself. Maybe you told others about a personal goal or an ambitious project, and then somewhere along the way you hit a wall. It could have been a failure, a setback, or even a detour you didn't anticipate. But instead of focusing on how to overcome the obstacle, you found yourself focusing on the expectations of others. You were so preoccupied with living up to their image of you that you lost sight of what was truly important, your own growth and progress. There's a reason why many successful people avoid talking too much about their plans before they have results to show for them. By keeping quiet, they protect themselves from unnecessary pressure and distraction. They focus on their path and take ownership of their journey, unburdened by the need to explain or justify every step. Their efforts are driven by their own goals, not the expectations placed upon them by others. Think of the great artists who kept their work private until it was complete. They didn't need validation or approval to create. They didn't share their unfinished pieces with the world, waiting for compliments or criticisms. Instead, they trusted in their vision, worked diligently, and allowed their work to speak for itself when the time was right. Similarly, in your life, whether you're starting a business, pursuing a creative passion, or working toward any personal goal, keeping things private allows you to focus purely on the work. You're not distracted by the weight of others' expectations. You're free to make mistakes, iterate, and evolve without having to defend your decisions. You can take the time you need to get things right, knowing that the results will eventually speak for themselves. The more you talk about your goals and dreams before you've made meaningful progress, the more you invite others' expectations into your life. And once those expectations are there, they're hard to shake. They become a constant reminder of what you're supposed to achieve, how fast you're supposed to achieve it, and what it will look like when you get there. This pressure can be overwhelming, and it can prevent you from taking the kind of bold, authentic actions that will lead to true success. By keeping your plans to yourself and focusing on the work, you create space for personal growth and accomplishment without the weight of external judgment. You allow yourself to evolve naturally and stay true to your own rhythm. And That's when real progress happens. Without the burden of others' expectations, you will be able to create on your terms, at your pace, and with the freedom to fail and grow without fear. The power of consistency over public opinion. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in the noise. Social media constantly bombards us with images of success, milestones, and the next big thing. People seem to have it all figured out, their lives on display for everyone to see. Yet, beneath the surface, behind the curated photos and posts, many are struggling just like you, trying to find their own path. The one thing that sets apart those who succeed and those who falter is often not their talent or their resources, it's their ability to stay consistent when no one is watching. The truth is, success is not a one-time event or a flash-in-the-pan achievement. It's the result of consistent effort day after day, regardless of who sees it or acknowledges it. While it may feel gratifying to share every step of your progress with the world, the real power comes from working tirelessly, even when no one is cheering you on. When you work in silence, when you don't seek external validation, you give yourself the gift of uninterrupted focus. One of the biggest challenges in today's world is the constant need for external approval. We're encouraged to share everything, our goals, our dreams, our achievements, often before we've even put in the work to make them a reality. But this constant need for validation can lead to frustration. People will often applaud you when you're on your way up, but when things get difficult, when you face setbacks, those same people may turn their attention elsewhere. If your motivation depends on public opinion, it will falter at the first sign of failure or discouragement. Think about a young writer who has a passion for storytelling. They dream of writing a book, but instead of sitting down every day to write, they tell everyone they know about their big idea. They share excerpts with friends, post about their progress on social media, and wait for the applause to roll in. They might even receive some positive feedback in the beginning, some encouragement, a few likes and comments. But over time, the excitement fades. Their followers move on to the next new thing. What happens then? Without the support of others, without constant validation, they're left alone with their doubts and the writing stops. This is where the power of consistency over public opinion becomes clear. The truly successful people, the ones who achieve greatness, don't need constant applause. They're not looking for the next compliment, the next round of praise, or the next like on social media. They're focused on the quiet work, on the small actions they take every day, building their future brick by brick, step by step. Think about the athletes who spend hours training in the gym, long before they step into the spotlight. The world doesn't see them in the early mornings, sweating and pushing their bodies to the limit. They don't share every drill, every moment of struggle with their fans. Instead, they focus on the task at hand, making incremental improvements day after day. They don't need the world's approval to get better. They know that consistency, not external recognition, will lead them to victory. We often underestimate the power of small, consistent efforts. We look at the big wins, the viral moments, the instant success stories, and we think that's how success is achieved. But the truth is, every successful person has gone through the mundane, unglamorous work that no one talks about. It's the hours spent alone, the decisions made behind the scenes, the choices to show up every day and keep moving forward, even when it feels like no one is watching. Real success is built in the shadows. It's the quiet moments, the hours of practice, the slow and steady accumulation of effort that leads to real, lasting results. When you're not concerned with proving yourself to others, when you're not seeking validation or approval, you create the space to focus on the work that truly matters. You can improve, grow, and evolve without the distractions that come with external pressure. A great example of this principle is seen in the story of Thomas Edison. Edison failed time and time again before finally perfecting the light bulb. He didn't let his failure stop him, and he didn't care what others thought about his endless trial and error. Edison understood that true innovation comes from the persistence of effort, not the approval of others. He worked consistently, quietly, and relentlessly, and in the end, the world celebrated his success. Think of the musician who writes song after song, not looking for validation or praise, but simply expressing themselves through their craft. They might write dozens of songs that never see the light of day, never get recorded or played on the radio, but with every song they write, they improve. With every note they play, they get closer to their masterpiece. It's the consistency of their practice that leads to success, not the external applause they might receive along the way. When you focus on consistency over public opinion, you give yourself the freedom to fail. You no longer fear mistakes because they aren't being scrutinized by a wide audience. Each mistake is simply another lesson, another opportunity to learn and grow. There's no shame in falling short when you're focused on the long-term process. You can give yourself the space to figure things out, to evolve your ideas, and to refine your craft without worrying about what others think. This mindset allows you to develop resilience. You become someone who doesn't rely on the ups and downs of public opinion to stay motivated. You rely on your own internal drive, your own commitment to the process, and your belief in your ability to improve. In doing so, you'll find that success comes more naturally. The more consistent you are, the more likely you are to see results. And those results will speak for themselves. So stop worrying about telling the world what you're doing. Stop seeking external validation for every step you take. Instead, focus on building your dreams with quiet consistency. Over time, those small, consistent actions will add up, and you'll find that the results speak louder than any words you could have said.